Hi everybody, Tom Matuska and Brett Wingfield here for the Matuska Taxidermy Supply Thursday afternoon live, just a little bit late. We took a little vacation last week and some of us were out of town and it's a little hard to get back into the swing of things in a timely fashion. I think the week before we did knife sharpening, and that's something that I hope we help some people out, because I always say that when I learned to sharpen a knife and keep a knife sharp, my taxidermy work went to a whole new level. You don't have to saw, you don't have to cut, you don't have to, I mean, when you move your knife, it fleshes or it cuts, whatever you want to do. We showed you a few of the basics on sharpening knives, and there's really, once you have the fundamentals, it's a matter of repeating the steps over and over and over, and just until you can do it every time. When you're just learning to sharpen an edge or put an edge on your knife, it's, I guess, accidental that you do it. Sometimes you go through the motions and, oh man, that seems sharp. How did I do that? Well, then the next couple times you might not have the success you did that time, but pretty soon you're going to get very regimented, you're going to get very consistent, and you can do it each time. Don't forget, as these knives get older and older and older, you had one a couple weeks ago that we were showing them that looked like an ice pick, and that is the perfect knife. Some people would throw them away at that time, but it's a perfect knife to get up under antler burrs and real difficult to reach areas because it was so narrow. Down in hoofs, some of those knives that actually get worn out and get too narrow are perfect for those type of areas. And so don't throw them away, keep sharpening them. But also remember, as you sharpen a knife down this way, this edge is receding, and your blade is getting wider and wider and wider. So you may have to work harder to put that edge back on as your knife gets wider. When you get them from the store or from the knife companies, they're very tapered down here and they're easier to sharpen. So I hope we helped you out with knife sharpening. We showed you a little bit on scissor sharpening.
Yeah. Once you can sharpen one knife, you should be able to sharpen all your tools in your shop. Same
and
principle.
Scalpels, you can keep a scalpel going a little bit. And there's all kinds of different, I don't want to say gimmicks, but different techniques and tools. We used to have those Lansky sharpeners that you actually clamp your knife in and it keeps your angles the same. They work exceptional. But it's a little, after you sharpen a lot of knives, it's a little bit of a hassle to keep clamping your knife into a different stone, you know. But they do work very good. So when you find something that allows you to sharpen your knife consistently every time and get a good razor sharp edge, your knife is going to get, your taxidermy work's going to get better and better and better and better.
Yeah. Most important tool in the shop, sharp knife.
Most important tool in the shop. And we have our favorite knives. We use a lot of Chicago cutlery knives, but it doesn't matter what kind of knife, whatever you can keep sharp and maintain a good edge on and is comfortable for you to use, that's what, keep using it. So today, we're gonna do a little habitat for you. This is a bear that we've done a while back, and we've been working on the base. We're gonna show you a few, I wouldn't say tricks, but just methods that we do to kind of spice up habitats. And you'll see a lot of taxidermy work out there, and when you, a lot of people we see at shows and they'll say, I just don't have the ideas, I just don't have the creativity. You don't have to have a lot of creativity to make, just make something that looks nice. If you go to shows, I always tell people, if you see something that really catches your eye, take pictures of it. Whether it's the birch log, whether it's the, the base, whether it's some of the vines or the type of leaves that they used, take pictures of that and have a file. Or even better yet, go out into nature and take a walk in the, spring and fall, or the time of the year that these animals are gonna be harvested. And if you see a nice, if you see a nice mossy rock on a little lake shore that catches your eye, take a picture of it, put it in a book, because you need reference for habitat just the same as you do for your animals.
Absolutely.
There was an older gentleman by the name of Jerome Sokolek who used to be real active in the Iowa Taxidermy Association, and many of the Iowa people who are watching will remember Jerome. And Jerome entered the competitions always. Every year he would have 2, 3, 4 entries, and Jerome never did a competition piece. He would take his customer work. And some people do that, and it's never quite competition quality. Jerome's was always competition quality. He always placed very high in the masters with his customer pieces. That's how quality of a taxidermist he was. Jerome had notebooks of rock pictures, rock colorations, different habitat scenes. And in talking to him, he'd say it's no different than, trying to make a black bear face look like a black bear. You can't make a rock look like a rock if you don't know what the rock's supposed to look like. So don't think it's foolish to take pictures of a rock laying in the middle of a gravel road. I mean, there's different ways that rocks lay. They don't fall out of the sky and just lay in the sky. Sometimes they're halfway, embedded in the earth, or a lot of different things you'll learn by paying more attention to nature and those type of things. But we're gonna show you kind of our method, I guess, of doing habitats, and it might be, I think we go to a little extra step, extra mile in our habitats that make them look pretty nice. So we have a method to our madness, so we'll walk you through that and show you some of the things that we do. So the first thing we did with this bear is we start with a wood frame, and we'll take him off in a little bit and we'll show you the wood frame. But underneath this is I'm going to say a 1x4 wood frame. We propped up a 2x4, this is birch bark, which was actually wrapped around the 2x4, filled with foam. He's standing, what's supporting him is a 2x4. His hind feet are also on 2x4s for stability. And then we always use hardware cloth. Is there a chunk down on the end of that table?
There was, yeah.
We cover our base work with hardware cloth because it makes it real nice and strong. Maybe I didn't take care of something. Yeah. And if you don't know, this is what hardware cloth is. And there's a lot of different things, but this gives us our base. So underneath all of this is 1/4-inch screen is what it really is. You can get it at the hardware store.
We sell it too.
We sell this?
Yeah.
How come I have to run to the store to get it all the time? We sell hardware cloth?
Yeah.
This is awesome stuff. It really is. I've used this on my base work, forever.
Forever, yeah.
But now you need something to support your contour. So this is what we like to use to support our contour. And then over the hardware cloth, once we get that shaped over our mound here, then we put on the rocks. And then we will put, some people like to use plaster and burlap. That's a common thing. I'm not fond of the plaster and burlap because no matter how you do it, sometime down the road it's going to chip.
I'm going to know if this is it. The screen?
No, that's your plastic.
No.
Oh, no, that's little.
That's
no,
a
that's,
screen.
oh,
That's like window. That's like window screen.
Oh.
It's close.
Close.
So we need the bigger version.
Yeah.
We'll be carrying it next week.
And we have done screen before, but you want something for your contour to bite to.
Yes.
Something real nice and rigid. Now, this by itself, shaped in this type of a shape, you would be able to push it, dent it. You couldn't stand on it. You couldn't do anything like that. It wouldn't even support the bear. But we staple that all over our wood, and then this needs to be reinforced and covered with something. So we use fiberglass. And I don't know if you can look back in our archives if we've ever done any fiberglassing, and if we haven't, maybe that would be a good live sometime to show you how to fiberglass.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to fiberglass, you can mold anything. You can make canoes, motorcycle gas tanks, build your own Corvette. That's what fiberglass is. It's made up of polyester resin, which is liquid. That's the glass portion of fiberglass, and a fibrous sheet that you can pull apart and put on here, and it saturates the glass or the fiber, and then it forms a real hard plastic shell.
Yeah.
So over our hardware cloth is a nice plastic shell, and you'll get very neat at it, and it's kind of messy to work with if you've never done it before. You put a catalyst with the polyester resin, and we will show you how to do that, and then you put it over your entire base, little by little, saturating it. It's very potent, smelly stuff, not very good for you, so do it outside or do it in good ventilation. It's very strong. Fiberglass is a very strong smelling product. Once it's fiberglass, now we're pretty strong, right? And you can walk on it.
Yep.
You could stand
You
on
could stand. Yeah, you absolutely could stand
it.
on
And you
this
don't
now.
have to put a lot of layers. We put on one layer will do. Probably can't stand on it with one layer, but it's good enough to hold the bear.
Yeah.
We usually put on a couple layers.
Yeah.
As opposed to like when we make big molds for our styrofoam mannequins, we have 10 layers.
It's this thick.
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
layers will be approaching half
Yeah.
inch thick, I bet. One layer is going to be thin cardboard, oak tag thick, I
Yeah.
suppose. Then, on this, I think we added the rocks. We, you and one of the girls here, I think, took the birch bark. This is actually just bark right off of a birch tree that was peeled off in a sheet.
Yep.
And you guys wrapped it around here and foamed the inside, I think. And then we put the rocks on, painted the rocks, and then we covered this entire thing with earth soil.
Yep.
And we just it depends on what kind of, if it were a river scene with fish, we might have a whole bunch of little rocks and things, and we might use sand. You can use sand, you can use gravel, whatever you want your base to be, you want it to match the habitat of the animal. So we did something like that.
Yep.
This, to tie it all in, this is nothing more than barn board cut, and then it's kind of notched out in the back, and that's more of that birch bark, sheet of birch bark, and you just took that, didn't you? And
I don't think we just took it.
it's a job.
It was a very big job. But yeah, it was round. It flattened it out, screwed it to panels.
Grab me a sheet of that.
It was quite a challenge, but man, a neat little accent.
So this one is what it was. And you just glued that onto a piece of board.
Just glued it on.
And it's very
We did a lot of
interesting.
work.
It's very interesting because I have not had a lot of experience with birch bark, but how hard can it be to glue birch bark onto a board? Well, the birch bark is round, first of all, and so I thought, well, we have to soak it for sure, right? So we put it in cold water, and that didn't do much. So I thought, well, we'll try warm water, and that made it soft, but it also made it curl
Very
much
curly.
more.
Yes.
So I thought, I wonder if you put soap in it. Soap, like, or ultra soft relaxer was another thing.
Yeah,
I think
that's what we
Ultra
tried,
Soft
yep.
Relaxer. So we put ultra soft relaxer in the water, which softens up a moose cape that's flint dried like a, piece of cloth, and we put it in there, and it curled up like really tight, like so tight we couldn't
get it
uncurl
undone.
So I'm thinking, being the chemist in me, that ultra soft relaxer is very basic. It's extremely basic. So I put a little acid in. So I'm thinking acid. I don't want to go too crazy. Let's put a little vinegar in, because that's mildly acidic. So I put vinegar in, and now we've got, those cinnamon sticks that you put in
Exactly.
in cider and stuff that are like you couldn't.
You could use it for a straw.
Only they're this long. And I'm thinking, okay, it was kind of soft though. I thought I'll put more acid. So I put a little formic acid in. And now I really have a tube. I've got a piece of
Straw.
PVC
I'm
pipe.
telling you, it's a straw.
So then I Googled it, good old Google. I go to the Google and it says boil it. Aha. So we get our little skull cooker going out here and we put it in. And other than a few burnt fingers, between you and I, we were able to
Unroll it.
and glue it. We pressed it first.
Yeah.
and screwed it together between two boards, which gave us a flat sheet like this.
Let it dry like that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we're able to use it.
So we just glued it right on. Right?
Just glued it right on.
Anyway, we thought it made a really attractive enhancement to our bear base, and it kind of ties in the birch log. It's it was a little more work than we had anticipated. And when you do something for the first time, you're probably gonna eat a little bit of your profit, but the next time we know what's involved, so this $50,000 base would be a little more
Exactly.
profitable for us, you know.
We might make $1.
And also, whenever you're doing these bases, it's pretty easy. I always tell the customer, it's easy to get more involved in the base than we did in the animal. So you've got to charge for something like that.
Yep.
Jason wants to know, how did you adhere the dirt to the fiberglass?
The dirt to the fiberglass can be adhered several different ways, but
Yeah.
we, to start with, use fiberglass, right?
Yep. Polyester
Use
resin.
Polyester resin. Let me grab some and show you what I'm talking about.
So we built the structure, fiberglassed the base, put the rocks on, and then we needed to cover it with the dirt, and this is what we used to adhere the dirt.
Now on small bases, we have the eagle back here. We'll get this out of the way and show you the eagle. On foam, we use Elmer's glue, and Elmer's glue will adhere the dirt really, really well. Mod Podge, Elmer's
Yep.
glue, both
Do
of
you
those.
use straight Elmer's glue?
Usually it's the best idea to seal the base first, and so you don't waste a whole bunch of Elmer's glue. We seal it with 50-50 water and Elmer's glue. That works much better if you seal the base first. Then you put on straight Elmer's glue, push your dirt down into it, let it
Yeah.
firm up, dump the excess off, and patch any spots.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is come in with a atomizer bottle, like a squirt bottle, with watered down Elmer's glue and water, and we'll saturate it from the top, which will glue all the dirt. I can't handle my bases sprinkling on people's carpet when they're carrying it through the
Yeah.
house and stuff like that. So I want all of this, before we get done, we're gonna glue this down on the top, like really, really well.
Yep.
This is polyester resin, comes like this, very, very syrupy, very sticky, very smelly. Polyester resin is the glass portion of fiberglass. You have to activate it with a MEKP catalyst. MEKP is methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. When you buy these, you'll get a little slip of paper that shows you how much of this activates how much of this. So this amount will activate that whole, harden that whole bottle.
Yeah.
So we use a lot of polyester resin to put our dirt on.
Yep.
It sticks really, really good. And when we have a slicked plastic base, I think polyester resin works better than if we're doing it on foam or
Yeah.
wood or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can do anything. This is all our earth soil. You can mix moss in with it. You can have all moss.
Yeah.
You can have there's just
I
no
did do a
end.
little moss in that soil. Sprinkled it
Yeah,
on at the
on the
end.
top.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so now, as we're doing this, these are rocks that, we make a lot of rocks here, and we have molds that we actually made out of real rocks, out of latex rubber, and we show you how to do that sometime too. But we have molds, and we make auto body rocks, and then we'll put them on here. Now, there's a lot of companies that sell rock panels. We use rock panels.
Yep.
And you can take the rock panel and put those on here too. Now,
Sure.
rock panels are kind of expensive. They're $100 to $300 a piece, I think.
Yep.
And so to make that big rock on his hind foot, which he's standing on, or something like this, you could easily have $30 worth of rock panel put together to make that. So keep track of this stuff. We see a lot of people in our area, maybe not so much anymore, but there was a lot of $800 to $1,200 bears, life-size bears.
Yes.
And we've done, I think, as many life-size black bears as most people, and we know what goes into them. And when you figure that, what's the tanning on a nice black bear now?
Oh, gotta be $400 or $500, isn't it?
$400 or $500. And then besides that, You got a form to go inside of it, and that's gonna be another,
At least that, if not
cheap
more.
end, $250 all the way up to
Yeah.
$700. This is a Harvey Moore mouth cup, $160 or so.
Yep.
There's
Reflective eyes.
clear liners, there's eyes, there's a nose, there's it just goes on and on and on. There's $100 worth of birch, or more than that
More
probably.
than that,
by the time you
yeah.
get the panels, the barn board, the amount of time that it took to make these frames for the ends, not to mention the hardware cloth. So do keep track of that. And I think one time we showed you the work calculation sheet, didn't we show them once?
Yep.
Go
Yep.
back in our archives and you can see them, and it's something for you to keep track. And the one thing it'll do is it'll scare you to death because, oh my gosh, I didn't charge this guy enough.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the time you pick up the phone and say, I have a problem, I'm doing your bear, and we're running into more money, and maybe the customer will be really understanding, and he'll say, you know, that's fine, charge me whatever you need, or he's gonna say, I'm not gonna pay anymore, but for next
Yeah.
time, it will be a good education for you, so you know that you don't get caught putting too much into these mounts.
And a lot of times I know when we initially fill out our invoice, we give them a range for a base price too, that would be a minimum and a maximum, and gives us some room to work too.
And we didn't have to do this, you know, that's a lot of time to do this kind of a base. We could have set it down on the floor and just put a little barnwood frame around it, and we could have cut our expense by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, you know. So, keep track of that stuff, it'll save you in the end.
Yep.
Should we take this apart and show them the underneath
Show them
side
the underside,
and
yeah.
what it looks like?
Yep, we sure can. Where do we want to go with him?
This just lay him on the floor. Look how nice he comes on and off. Did everybody see that? Anybody who's done life size knows how difficult it is. That didn't impress me. Okay, let's take this off, and maybe we can just tip it up
Lift it
on here
and
to
show them. Yep. We didn't build any handles on
I
this.
know, just set it right down in here. Maybe we can tip it upside down. Now, here is the 1x4 frame. And now you can see underneath, this is all foam. That was screen, it was our hardware cloth, which we don't sell. And,
But we're gonna, I bet.
and, but what the foam, we like to put foam on there for is we're gonna plant grasses on the top. And if you just have a polyester, layer of polyester mat over hardware cloth, you don't have any thickness, and you can put all the glue down in there you want, and it's gonna run down on the
It's
floor.
on your floor.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be sticking
What
to it.
density foam are you using on the inside?
That's another good point. We had a customer call up that had bought the 10-pound density foam. The 10-pound density foam is like this.
Yeah.
And we use it for rocks. That's the rocks that we can actually make and drive over them. You know, they're that strong. A lot of our driftwood is really high density foam, which is stronger than the real driftwood. The higher the number, it doesn't foam as much. So if we had to put this much 10-pound foam in here, we'd probably use 2 gallons to do that, which is, what's a gallon? It's $100 and some bucks, or almost $2 million. It's a lot. So if you want a lot of expansion, don't go 10-pound.
Right.
If you want something that you can drill through, that we can just glue in some plants, 3-pound is fine.
Yep.
We could have even got by in here with
Spray
squirt
foam.
foam, which
Yep.
we have used sometimes too.
Because our structure is supported by the fiberglass. The fiberglass is plenty
in it,
strong.
Plus, even lightweight foam under here makes this strong enough.
Yeah.
You could jump up and down on the top. It's that strong now.
Yeah.
Something else we wanted to show you that you noticed when we pulled the bear off, the threaded rod slipped right in, or slipped right out. He came off really easy. There was no struggle trying to bend the rods and get the legs. I remember one time we had a big brown bear standing on 3 feet, and
On a moose antler.
on a moose antler, and that front foot, I mean, we had him mounted, he was completely sewed up. Mark was here with us, and we had to move that front leg over, only an inch. And when we did, we heard it crack and the front leg broke.
Inside the
We
leather.
altered it, made cut grooves and everything else. And we had to cut that bear's leg from the outside all the way up to his shoulder, put a new rod in and strengthen it. So you'll wanna, make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen by fighting those legs.
Yeah.
What we did was we took PVC pipe that fits around our threaded rod in the legs, and I cut lengths for the threaded rod that's coming out of the legs. I roughed them up real good, made an oversized hole in the base, stuck it around the animal's leg rods, and anytime you're doing a life size, make sure all the leg rods are extremely straight. Extremely straight. If they're going out at different directions, you'll fight that forever, and it's pretty embarrassing to deliver a life-size animal to somebody's house and you can't get it back in the base, and you hear those threaded rods go up and down through that base.
Grind and
gravel falling off and stuff. So the more professional you can make it, the better. Anyway, these are in here. Here's one here, foamed around. There's another one, I think, over here, and then
right
there's
there.
one, right there, and then there's one in the log. And these were put onto the bear's rods, taped in place, slid down on the base, and then just poured a little Bondo around them to tack them into place, flipped it upside down, and we poured foam around it, and those are in there for good and forever, and they're the same angle that our leg rods are.
Yeah, nice guides. And they're all parallel too. That's not only are they straight with no bend in them, they're all parallel to each other, so they slide up and down
No matter
nice
what,
and easy.
what kind of animal you're doing. If it's a bird on 2 feet, leg riders that go like this, it's not going to work. You got to have them parallel from all directions, and you'll have the nicest, most professional job.
And do that first. We spend a lot of time setting that mannequin up. That's almost something we could talk to them about, is setting up straightening leg rods, setting up the mannequin. We spend a lot of time getting those straight before we ever go through the mounting process.
Well, should we put some things on?
Yeah,
We could probably set him right on here, do you think?
I think so.
Let me put it on a little crooked maybe. Okay, now you want to select materials that are native to the animal. This bear, we're going to have a lush forest scene. We're going to have a lot of moss. We're going to have some grasses. We have some ferns. This is one of our favorite things. We use a lot on our fish. We use a lot on everything.
We do. I like that.
This is one of my favorite little habitat things that we have, and I think it's called a branch with moss or moss branch or something like that. But I mean, you can just drape this around here and make it look like one of them.
Yeah.
Now what I'd do is sometimes I'll take a screw and just take a screw and go in. This is wire in here, so you can bend these any way you want. Or like on our fish bases, we use little pieces, little chunks,
Cut some little
staple
pieces
them
off.
into place. I like stuff, so I might even take a little nail or a pin and stick it down in and finish over it.
Yeah. You can drill the base in if you want to drill it down in and plant it.
But I like this. Now, again, don't forget all of the stuff you're putting in, because this is so fun, and you're going to say, wow, the customer's going to love it, and he'll love that he's not paying for it and you did, is what he's going to love. Because I don't know what these are, but I bet you they're,
I don't know, Mandy?
Mandy could guess.
$8,
Are they
yeah.
$8? Ooh, that's a deal. We should put another one on.
We could do two.
But the more stuff you put on, that's adding to your expense, so don't forget to do that. There's all kinds of things. I like to put on, somewhere I have moss. We can open up one of the bags of moss. You go ahead and put some on and get you a glue gun here.
And I'm just kind of breaking it up. It's been in the package, so we're gonna open it up and flex it a little bit, get it stretched out. We have a little bit of a seam here, which would be strategically kind of a nice, easily camouflaged with some moss. I might do that. Open this up a little. Any of your rocks, I like to make sure that as we're doing this that we catch any little imperfections that you may or may not see in the rock, in the ground habitat. If you've got screw holes or little seams that may not have been picked up with the dirt, we can always take care of those. There's a little edge right there to that rock. We can take care of that with some moss. And it's kind of nice to lay this moss out a little bit before you start gluing it all down, just to make sure you don't end up with one really heavily covered side and one side that's not. One thing that's, I think, kind of tells a little bit about habitat work is when you stand back and look at some of the pieces you see on display, and the moss will always look polka dotted. Same size, same shape, and same distance apart. Try to avoid that. And it's kind of nice to let it chain together. If you take your reference pictures and look at how moss grows, a lot of times it will grow down as the flow of moisture settles into rocks and cracks. It'll follow, the growth of the moss will follow that moisture line. So you can add some interest and add some realism to the way you place your moss. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time in arranging your composition, kind of arranging how your moss is placed. Oftentimes we'll take a little bit of, depending on your sheet moss, if the moss that you have is not dyed, you may want to paint it. You can actually paint it with a little transparent medium green. That adds a nice little bit of color. You don't want the moss, all this work you go through to show these nice green colors and composition. If you don't color your moss, it will be, in a month's time in an indoor environment, it'll end up showing very, very yellow and dead, and all your nice efforts will kind of be for naught.
You were telling them something about polka dotted bases with little grass clumps and things like that.
Yeah.
A young lady working for us, and some of you may know her, Barb Jagami. And when we had her do base work, because she was very good at it, she'd have been a naturalist at her. I mean, you know, she was a naturalist, but she would be a good person like Amber Kolash for doing arrangements,
All right,
flower
yeah,
arrangements and
yeah.
things like that. Anyway, Barbara was laying out in the driveway, on the edge of our driveway, one day, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm studying grass clumps." And I just laughed at her, but what we learned from just her doing that is don't get too regimented in the polka dot, polka dot, polka dot, polka dot, you know, because grass doesn't grow that way. And she knew all about legumes and all about different things, which was completely Greek to me.
She made some beautiful habitat for you.
Sure.
I think even that bear that we talked about breaking the arm, I think she had a lot to do with that.
Sure.
I know a story too about watching grass grow. That Tull, some of you know Tull, likes to tell, and that was after he did one of his first bases for you. You came back after an hour and told him he needed to go outside and study how grass grew, and don't come back inside until he figured it out.
I don't think so.
You ask him. I bet he will tell you.
I never.
So you're gonna show him how to do some grass?
Well, I always say the more elements that you put in, to a point, you know, the more elements you put in, the more interesting you can make these bases. Now, some of you have seen, I went to a show one time, speaking of different elements, and it was a deer pedestal mount, it was a snow scene, there was a footprint, there was a cigarette butt, there was a scent thing, there was everything that this hunter had to have when he went into the woods, they put onto this base. That's not what we mean by, you know, elements, but just natural things. So if you looked at it, you would say, oh yeah, that's real life looking. What I was doing was, we use a lot of grasses, and this is an example of our cover grass. And it's preserved, and it's great stuff. It stays really nice and limber forever, never dries out and gets crunchy, and it comes pretty wide. If I had to say what it is, I think it's some kind of a wide reed because it's very wide down here, and whoever harvests this stuff shreds it somehow, you know, into
stripper.
real natural looking grass. Comes in like, you must have 8 colors.
I bet.
You get a lot of colors, 6 colors. There's a bunch of them. But if we want to plant grass, we will take various little sprigs, and then I like to just take some thread, tie it around the bottom. It's too hard to put a whole lot of little sprigs together, so if you tie it 3 or 4 wraps around there, and then I just pull my thread right through the bottom of the sprig, and I'll tie up a whole bunch of those little guys. Then I will snip it off and just make sure that when you glue it into your base, we drill holes to put these in, but when you glue it into your base, make sure your threads don't show.
You should sell them like that.
You should make them.
You should.
Like that.
I used to.
You used to, yes you did. But anyway, we'll make and switch colors around. Some people say, this one's too green, this one's too yellow. How about a little bit of green with a few yellow sprigs in it?
Yeah.
Or for fall scenes, we'll take the natural. The natural's a little too dried up. But if you put 2 or 3 sprigs of green in with your natural, tie yourself up little bundles. And you can make this stuff as tall as it comes pretty tall.
Yeah.
But now I have holes here. I'm not going to put it in permanent, but I drilled holes, and we would just Elmer's glue it right around there. Now because I drilled there, I do have to color my little drill hole.
Yeah.
But grass typically grows, around these rocks where the bear couldn't mow, things like that. Kind of come up with little natural areas to put it. Don't just do like Brett said, one here, one here, one here. Put 3. It's kind of like trout spots.
It's a lot like trout spots, yeah.
Spots. If you guys do rainbows, if you look at people that aren't very experienced, you can, without even trying, they will have 3/8 of an inch apart from every single trout spot without realizing they do it. Grass is kind of the same way. 3 here, a couple here, 1 over here, 4 here, and 6 here. So that's just another element that we like to put on. Ferns, we have some nice ferns in the supply company, and we take those, and bear country is loaded with ferns. Some of them are really, really natural. Ours are great looking ferns, and I could not tell this from the real thing if I went outside. This looks great. This one I got uptown, and
I didn't like that one.
not so great.
Those little ones looked really.
But you could use pieces of this. You
You
don't
know,
have to. And when you get this, don't plant the whole thing like that. You'll notice a lot of beginner taxidermists. Oh, they said put ferns on. Okay, and they put about 3 of these. It looks like it doesn't look so good. Take these and put them together into a nice little arrangement. And ferns kind of grow up, little by little. They don't all of a sudden appear all the same size like this. So don't be afraid to do something like that.
Don't be afraid to take an airbrush to it too. If you wanted to enhance it, a little yellow ochre, angle sprayed, make a big difference to that.
This is another one of my favorite products.
Yep.
I love our birch branches. I went down and picked up the yellow. There's a great yellow that goes good with mule deer. And things
Aspen
like
yellow,
that,
yeah.
and elk. It's a little too gaudy for this, but yeah, this is aspen / birch. But we got birch. How about some little birch enhancement coming through here somewhere? You just have to have it start from a reasonable spot, you know, so it doesn't look phony. And now remember, as you're doing this, everything you put on is a dust collector.
Yeah.
Some
Very true.
customers, I have one customer in particular that we've done stuff for the last 40 years for him, and his showroom is cleaner than ours. It's that nice. I've seen things that we did last year in other people's showrooms that I don't want to admit we did it because it's so dirty. Some people take really good care of their mounts, so that's something also that some people will take care of this really well, and some people won't take care of it really well.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to put rocks on. You can put more artificial rocks. These you paint them all different colors. Sometimes all of that will add to the animal's coloration.
Yeah.
And moss,
yeah,
red
yeah.
moss. Pine is always very good in a bear scene. We use a lot of this in our bear and elk and north and western animals.
Yeah. What else do we
What
have?
else are we gonna show? Oh, we were going to show them the eagle base.
Oh yeah. Should we put some?
Should we set this down and show them how good that bear goes on? And we've got some. Now, we gave you an idea of what to do here, but we have to attach stuff now. But this will give you an idea so that when we put the bear on, you kind of see what he's supposed to look like. This will have a wood rail around the top of it. And we put casters on any of our big animal mounts because people want to roll them around in their showroom, and you don't want them wrecking your woodwork.
You gonna drive the front?
Go back a little bit.
I got this one, but
Yeah, I gotta go.
You first.
Yep, you first, maybe.
Good?
Yep.
See, now look how easy he goes on. I'll lift him up once just to show him. See? Isn't that nice? Smooth. But now that stuff's just nothing other than lay stuff on there. Imagine how good he's going to look, you know, with some ferns. That's going to be pretty nice.
It is.
that's very nice.
And he'll have a nice rail around the top. Okay, for another one.
Shall we roll him out of the way? Got him?
Now we're fortunate to have a, pretty extensive U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service clientele that we've done a lot of visitor centers for, all over the United States, and get to handle a lot of creatures that a lot of you won't get to. This is a beautiful bald eagle that Mike Orthoper helped us with, and it's going to go on a walnut base. It's going to be pretty simple. The emphasis is going to be on the eagle, not the base work. This is just an old, actually a washed up piece of driftwood, something from Lake Michigan. But that will index into this
Yeah.
walnut piece, and we've got a huge assortment of this in oak and walnut and different
Thick
kind of
and
woods.
thin, and several different configurations. That's a really pretty piece.
So now this was just foam, and we took this afternoon and put a piece of, let me grab it again, put a piece of saran wrap, cling free, whatever you call it now,
Yeah.
plastic wrap on our base, laid a wood panel. It didn't have to be the right shape or anything. We just laid it down in here, something we can screw to.
Yeah.
Put we screwed the wood panel onto this post. That sat on here, and then we poured foam over it.
Yep.
So this is screwed down so it doesn't tip over, but this indexes into here perfectly.
Yep. Yeah, and that makes it a very nice clean. It's got a half inch recess.
I'd say
looks
half
like.
or more, yeah.
And so that will recess down into here. Then this piece attaches perfectly inside, and we can do some little light finish work, a little bit of dirt. You've got this base sealed up nice already. So that would be ready
And
for...
we were talking about sealant bases before. If we put our earth cover, sand, gravel, peat soil, whatever it happens to be, if we put it right on foam, a lot of times when that glue dries and gets really dry, it'll come off in chunks. Chunks of gravel and glue,
Yep.
glued together. If you seal it first and let that dry completely, it seems to hold much better and it
Yep.
won't come off in chunks.
Yep. And another... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to speed this up, because of live, typically we would take a little water, a little Elmer's glue, and thin it down so we don't waste so much Elmer's glue. And next day we'd come in because it takes that long to dry. We use denatured alcohol with the Elmer's glue, and that
Or-
dried extremely fast.
Isopropyl or denatured?
Isopropyl.
Isopropyl. And another little tip, when you put on a dark soil on top of a yellow foam, you might want to paint your base, just in case
Then
some
you
of
don't
the...
have to patch.
Yes, so the foam doesn't show through your dirt. In some instances, you may have little yellow spots that show through. If your dirt's a little bit thin, by painting it, you won't have to worry about that.
And another trick, before you mix your foam, if you are going to put on a brown ground cover, a beige brown color cover, you can put a pigment into your foam.
You sure can, yep.
And mix it up really good into only one side, and then when you mix A and B together, you're already closer to the color, so if any chips off or gets scuffed down the road, if we left this like this and put our peat soil on here, if it chips, you're going to have a yellow chip.
Yep.
If we had colored this first or painted it at this point,
Yep.
if it chips, nobody's going to notice.
Yep. That's actually what we did with the ends of those birch logs. That's foamed, and it was just added some lacquer-based paint inside the foam.
And you can, it doesn't take very much paint, you know, you can use, if you're going to use a lot of foam, it'll take more, but it doesn't take too much paint. Do be careful, like Brett said, lacquer paint, I'd be careful with the acrylics because they're water, and water reacts with foam in not such a good way, and you'll have real crumbly foam.
Yep.
So the next thing we'll do with this is probably color it. We'll probably paint it a little bit. Then we'll put straight Elmer's glue on it, peat soil on it.
Yep.
I don't know, maybe a couple little rocks, bury them down in here.
Yep.
Clamshell. I mean, you just be creative. You can put any kind of thing. Maybe
Absolutely.
some grasses,
Yep, we could put a little vine crawling up from...
mosses. Yeah.
Yep, crawling up the post.
Deer skull buried down in. You can your imagination.
Shed
will-
antler and a no trespassing sign.
But this will be a great enhancement for. This one goes to the Clay County Conservation Board.
Yep. Yep.
And then Amy Bell would like to know what you seal the foam with.
Right now, this has been sealed with Elmer's glue, thinned it down with water's fine, but make sure it dries good before you proceed,
Yeah.
or isopropyl alcohol.
Yep. And that dried really good. You just painted that on. I'm surprised.
It's fast, isn't
That is. I like that.
Good idea, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea.
We do a lot of things to get ready for
We
live.
yes.
Anyway, that's how we call this, like when we teach the school here, we call it simple bases. We show
Yeah.
all the students how to make a simple base. Their bases never stay simple. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and more elaborate.
They do.
But a simple base to me is a wood foundation in here that I can screw this to, foam, cover it with your ground cover, dirt, sand, gravel, whatever you want. I remember many times in the winter not having dirt and having to go out with a chisel
Oh my gosh.
and
Yes.
chisel clay out of a bank just to get the right color dirt.
Yeah.
Cover it with any kind of a ground color you want.
Yep.
Anything big on here, like on that bare base, those bigger rocks, make sure that you put those on before the dirt, so it doesn't
Right.
look like they dropped out of the
Yeah.
sky and just sat there.
Yeah.
And then after the dirt's on, we seal it from the top, and we seal it with a, like I say, an atomizer bottle. That's just a bottle like you get at Walmart, a quart bottle filled with, I'd say, 1 part Elmer's glue to 4 parts water.
Yeah. Thanks.
Shake it up really, really good, and you want it to spray real nice. We'll saturate that peat soil from the top, or sand or gravel, whatever it is. We saturate it really good from the top, and that soaks down into that material, and it glues everything on so it doesn't fall off. You don't want stuff falling off on customers' coffee tables and things.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess it's time to announce our giveaway. So this
Oh.
week, we are giving away the vine with moss that you were using.
Oh.
One of my favorites.
A little bit earlier.
I probably
And that-
stole
Oh,
it for
there,
the bear.
over there.
And the winner of that goes to Rachel Lewis. So congratulations on.
Rachel, this will be the beginning of a love affair with our
That's-
mossy vine. Like I said, we use this on
We do use that. We use a ton of
a lot
those.
of fish, lots of birds. Almost everything gets a little bit of our
Yeah.
mossy vine. We like it. And we've even made pedestal mount little fish by taking another wire and wrapping it around
Yes, we
here. that
have.
You can put your fish on, double-sided fish, bend these out of the way or wherever you want them. You can add more moss to them for more color. They're just handy, handy.
Very versatile.
All right, and to enter in next week's giveaway, make sure to like and share this live video. And we've got 15% off all products used in Facebook Live today. So that's
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
That was a lot
I
of
didn't
stuff.
go for it, didn't I?
Yes, very good. There's a glue gun, a lot of fun stuff. So that is
Wow.
until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. And the code for that is FBOOK15. So make sure to take advantage of that.
Nice.
Thank you, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.